desk is.
Put your mics on, everybody have their mics on. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of District Heights work session. It is Tuesday, January the 14th, 2025, and it is 7:02 p.m., and I call this meeting to order. At this time, I would like to know if the commission had a chance to look at the agenda for tonight, and if you are ready to put forth a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Yes.
Okay. So can I get a motion?
Vice Mayor Gomez moved to approve the work session agenda for January 14th, 2024.
25.
January 14th, 2025.
Thank you for that. Could I get a second?
Commissioner Janifer seconds the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4 yes and 0 no. So at this time, do we have any public comments? No, not at this time. Thank you, Kenna. So now we're entering the public hearing, and now we'll have public hearings. Item 1 is the public hearing 2020 series of bonds amendment, and staff is David Street and Cecilia Smith-Budd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This ordinance amendment was briefed to the commission at a previous city meeting. We're holding a required public hearing because we are adjusting the source of bond proceeds. And so nothing in the ordinance markup, which is provided as attachment to the item, has changed since the commission has seen it last. We've just advertised the public hearing and are holding the public hearing pursuant to statutory requirements.
So, so we're down to the part 1 pre-hearing, where we need a motion for.
Yes, ma'am.
Could I get a motion?
I, Commissioner Harcourt, move that the City Commission open the public hearing, is this the correct motion? On
Yes.
amendments to DH 2020-02.
Could I get a second?
Commissioner Tillman, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Do we have any members of the public that wish to speak at this time on this item? Okay. So we have no public participation regarding this. So part 2 is the post-hearing, and could I get a motion for the post-hearing action?
I, Commissioner Janifer, move that the City Commission close the public hearing on amendments to DH 2020-02 and forward the amendments to a future city meeting for action.
Could I get a second?
Vice Mayor Gomez seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Thank you for that. Item number 2 is the public hearing, stop sign traffic ordinance. So we have Chief Tarpley and Kenneth Warren. So Are you, did Chief Tarpley ask you to speak on this?
No,
or
he is
had an
here and I believe was
emergency?
planning to be available to speak. Although this is very much the same situation as the prior ordinance. This ordinance is to use video and camera enforcement for stop signs, much in the same way we do speeds within certain zones in the city. Again, this is something that does require a public hearing before it goes into effect, and the language has been presented to the commission at a previous city meeting.
So for the stop sign traffic ordinance, we are in part one of the pre-hearing. Could I get a motion around the pre-hearing?
Sure, I can take that, Mayor. I, Vice Mayor Gomez, move that the City Commission open the public hearing on enactment DH 2024-12.
Could I get a second?
I'll take that, Madam Mayor.
Sure.
I, Commissioner Harcourt, second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. So again, I'm going to ask the residents and the public, do we have any members that wish to speak regarding this public hearing? Okay. All right. So now we're in the part two post-hearing. Could I get a motion on the post-hearing?
Yes, I'll take that one.
Sure.
I, Commissioner Tillman, move that the city commission close the public hearing on enactment of DH 2024-12.
Could I get a second?
I, Commissioner Janifer, second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 4-0. Thank you for that. We have two remaining action items this evening. And one, item 3 is the approval of the minutes. Have you had a chance to review the minutes from January 2nd, 2025? And Kenneth, do you want to add anything to this?
Not at the moment, there's nothing to add to it.
Okay, thanks. So could I get a motion to approve the minutes for January the 2nd, 2025?
I, Commissioner Janifer, move that the city commission approve the minutes from the January 2nd, 2025 city meeting as provided in attachments 1 of the January 14th, 2025 staff report.
Could I get a second?
Vice Mayor Gomez seconds the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Thank you for that. So item 4 is the FY 2026 budget outlook and participatory budgeting. And no motion. This item is already scheduled to return to commission on January 28th work session. So we have Davis Street City Manager that will be speaking to it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. We do have our second budget item of this budget development season. A brief recap for those watching. The city commission was presented with the first FY 26 budget outlook item at the prior city meeting. And a number of budget outlook and guidance items are scheduled throughout January and February to allow the commission to guide the development of the proposed budget. During the January 2nd city meeting, the commission had a number of requests and feedback that we have taken and provided responses to you here in the packet. The first thing that the commission requested was an expansion of the public hearing schedule. And so staff proposes including a Saturday public hearing on the budget on Saturday, February 15th, and adding 2 additional public hearings to sync up with the March work sessions, 1 March and 1 April work sessions. So the reason that it's stratified in the February, March, April timeframe is so residents have the opportunity to participate throughout the commission's budget deliberations. The Saturday was added at the commission's request because not everybody can make it to the city meeting after work or in some cases during work hours for them. The commission also requested information about different participatory budgeting process, which we've started to compile in this item. There are three major categories, and I've listed them here for your consideration, basically from the least intensive in terms of staff and resources time to the most intensive. Starting off, we could, and many Maryland jurisdictions do, engage in an annual budget survey. Some examples are provided for your benefit within this item by hyperlink, but they ask broad questions about resident priorities from specific lines of service area to discrete requests and priorities. Again, they are hyperlinked in the packet for you to explore at your leisure. This is something that we could stand up pretty quickly, and we have the skills and staff to support it immediately. So if it's the commission's pleasure, we could open a budget survey within a week and then have results back to you in a February work session. Priority-based budgeting is another tool that we could look at to use. It, depending on how it's implemented, sits in the middle of, complex budgeting practices to incorporate into your budget process. Although, there are elements that we could incorporate for this budget cycle ahead of a full budget cycle next year. Specifically, priority-based budgeting asks residents, stakeholders, taxpayers to identify priority baskets of services. For example, green spaces could be a basket of services that would include things like tree planting and health, arboreal activities, things like that. And it allows the participants to engage in something like a ranked choice process whereby the governing body can tease out what the broad categories of resident interest and priorities are and allocate resources accordingly. You can also take that down a more detailed level and have distinct packages available, although that is much more intensive. So, for example, let's pretend that we had a full library system and the community was interested in enhancing some of the services around the library. There could be a basket about including staff and contract resources for additional programming. There could be a competing basket for a certain amount of dollars for new books and technology infrastructures, and the community would select the priority. I think we can implement parts of this, but it really depends on what high-level priorities the commission coalesces around and needs further feedback on. If you look, I've provided some additional links to organizations that do full-on priority-based budgeting, which is much more intensive, but as I said, there are elements that we could adapt into a participatory budget process here. They really seek to answer the question, what services are provided from the bottom level? How much does that service cost to deliver at a minimally acceptable level? So what law, ordinance, or policy states? And do the programs and activities associated with that service align with community priorities? If they align with community priorities, they're funded. If they're not aligned with community priorities, the funding is reduced or the program or service is eliminated or brought down to the minimally acceptable level. One of the most intensive mechanisms you could look at is establishing a citizens budget advisory committee or council. Again, these are used throughout the country and typically are used by slightly larger, more complex organizations than us. A budget council or advisory committee acts very much in the same way as a survey would or a priority-based budgeting tool would, insofar as they act as a barometer for resident and community priorities. This is obviously the most intensive process you have because they would be guided through a similar budgeting process before anything even makes its way to the commission. And so those are sort of the range of options that are available to you, although it is your budget process and you can pick and choose different pieces to incorporate or try out year to year. We're at a really good time to do that. We're very early in the process. And so we do have capacity and a long enough runway to our required adoption date to incorporate some of these practices and see how they work in District Heights. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the first half of this report.
Any questions from the commission?
I do.
Okay,
Unless someone else
Commissioner
wants to go.
Harcourt.
Yeah, David, thank you for this. This is great. My question is about the survey. I don't think number 3 would be practical for our community, and it would be too intensive. We have problems with committees now. But I do like the idea of the survey. My only question about the survey is, how would we set it up to ensure that it would only be resident participants? I wouldn't want people to shop, people to hijack our survey with outsiders to
Yeah.
sabotage it.
So that is absolutely a calculated risk that many of these jurisdictions appear to take. So, for example, I've pulled up one of our sister jurisdictions in Maryland's website, and as you can see, I can directly access their survey and take it. They do have some screening questions. What's your address, where are you located, things like that. But I don't know that there's a strong control in that example for screening for residency versus non-residency. And so I think the best cost benefit is taking a grain of salt approach with it. And if you want to open a survey, know that you're going to get some amount of responses that are out of jurisdiction.
And so with that, we could just build in that there will be, what am I trying to say? There'll be a small amount of.
Yes. With any, with any tool that you're looking at getting, some kind of statistical response out of, there's going to be some amount of error. In our case here, it's going to be error from data points outside the city. And so I think you can mitigate that by knowing it going in. And then to the extent that we can on the back end of whatever survey tool we use, report out what our findings were. So we're most of the addresses that access the tool, the IP addresses that access the tool from our zip code.
That's true.
Right? So we can look at things like that can offer a good approximation, but there will be some amount of error.
That's true, okay. As long as we do have that mechanism, I wouldn't want some rogue group to get together but if we can do it that way, it would, at least we'd be able to advertise that we do have some mechanism.
Yes.
To drill down into allowing groups to know that we do have some mechanisms to know that you can do this, but we do have some fail-safes to know that we can route those types of.
And that's
information.
certainly something that when we select a survey tool to use, we can make sure that that's something that we can report along with the survey results.
Right.
To be able to say something with some amount of confidence about the respondents to the survey to begin with.
Right, so if we get a response from way outside of the incorporated
Correct.
zip code, we
Right.
know that we can exclude that.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Right. And I think too, what you're teeing up is also to have that context available in public. And so you have a full and transparent process with publicly transparent context to say, hey, we're asking these questions, but we also know there's going to be some amount of out of jurisdiction capture. Here's how we're trying to control for that.
Exactly. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the commission?
I have just
Yeah.
one question, please, Mayor. In follow-up to Commissioner Harcourt's question, are we able to, since we know going into this with the survey that there probably will be folks that may be outside of our Incorporated City, completing this survey, is there some way, maybe in the address component, that there are pieces of this survey that you must fill in? And so
Yes.
when they fill in that address portion of it, we, at least depending on how many surveys we get, if we get 50, it's easier to kind of go through them to see, what the responses are, where they're coming from, so we can maybe pull those out, but still be able to provide that overall number of 50 people commented on the survey.
Yeah, the tools that they have, even on free or near free survey platforms, are pretty robust. And so you are able to make things like that required and drill down on them.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the commission?
Comment?
Sure, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I do think that a survey would probably be the best fit for us at this time, given our resources. And we've done a fair amount of surveys in the past, and I'm thinking specifically about the branding survey that we did. We got a significant amount of input. And the idea behind this, at least when I introduce this, is that we get feedback from a wide range of residents, and we're likelier to get that if we are able to send out a virtual survey that folks could fill out while they're at work, or they're at home, or it goes to their constant contact, and we can get some more information for residents who are not necessarily on a meeting, are not necessarily going to all of our events, but they get constant contact. So I do think it is a right fit for us, just also given our resources. However, the number 2 on the priority-based budgeting, just looking at, because I went through and I looked at Rockville's survey, like, they also ask questions around how you would like to prioritize the budget. So I think we could sort of do both, right? Within that survey, we can ask questions that are around what, residents want to prioritize within the budget.
The way that I suggest you look at that is, again, through that ranked choice methodology. And so we can put high-level areas or lines of service and basically ask a values question.
Yeah.
How much do you value whatever service? And we could get a good barometer for, I greatly value service A, and I don't really care about service C or D. That in and of itself is leaning toward priority-based budgeting, and is a good first foray into it, because it gets residents and stakeholders taking the survey to think in baskets of services as opposed to specific departments or specific resource requests.
Yeah.
So it's closer to how they interact with us on a daily basis.
And just to add as well on who would be responding to Commissioner Harcourt and Commissioner Janifer's point, the Rockville survey also asks, if you don't live in the city, what's your connection to Rockville? And it might be useful for us to actually collect some information, because we do have a lot of residents who come to we have a lot of folks who come to our events who are not residents, and we have a lot of folks who enjoy our services who are not residents, right? And it would still be good to, number one, maybe account for that and see like really what that mix is, and take their thoughts into consideration as
That's a
well.
good point.
Yeah.
And with respect to context, I think you've got 3 big groups. You have residents, so people who live here. You have, business owners or taxpayers who might not live here but might run a business here. And then you have other stakeholders who, maybe they deliver services in the city, maybe they're a nonprofit or a religious-based organization within the city. As the Vice Mayor points out, that information still has great value and can inform the commission's decision, but we have to call it out so that you know what you're looking at.
Yeah, but when it comes to, my thing is, when it comes to, since the tax bill is based on
Yes.
heavily residential here, and I've really been following the $3 billion deficit with the state, the deficit in the county. We are in a very good position in the city. We did something hard, the last budget. We foresaw a problem. Thank goodness the commission had the foresight to get ahead of it, to put the city in a good financial position. It wasn't a lot, but it spared us and our residents from being in a very, very bad position with just a half a penny. We're in a really good situation that the state and the county is not in, because we had the wherewithal to look forward. And it's not that we have a cushion, we just staying afloat. And we'll be able to maintain services and still keep our city moving forward. And I'd like to thank my colleagues for having the wherewithal to think through where the state and the county could not do that, because they didn't want to face reality. But what we have to ask ourselves moving forward also in this is, because the residents often don't think things the way we have to make really hard decisions, because we have to look at the books and we see the forward and the back is, they want things. We see the reality. We have to forecast inflation. We have to forecast the cost of prices and all of these things. We see the condition of the resources and assets that we have that are failing, that have not been maintained. What are the things that they want to cut? What do they want to give up?
Excuse me.
Because at the end of the day, we have these great things here in District Heights and great services that we provide our residents. But it's difficult. No one wants to tell us, what do they want to give up? And one of the things that makes our community special is because we do have these great things, but they come at a cost. And when we get ready to say we want to give something up, there are factions and people say, no, don't give that up. And it puts us in a really, really difficult situation. So we really like the residents to tell us, what do you want to give up? And I think that's a fair question that we include in these surveys is, what do you want to cut? If it's something you want to cut, tell us what it is.
And that's an important perspective to take in the scenario, in the budget scenario that we're going into this upcoming fiscal year. And in light of the work that has been done to restore services. And so one thing that shouldn't go amiss when we ask for priorities is a little bit of acknowledgement that, the last 2 years, we've done a lot of catch-up, right? So we've done a lot of service stabilization, a lot of right-sizing, and a lot of catch-up.
Yes.
And, to do that, we've had the benefit of, direct federal funding through ARPA, as well as being able to reprogram some other funding sources that we've got. But that backing from the federal level is done. It's not there. And so we've had a good catch-up opportunity, but we're also back to a more, air quote, normal budgeting environment. I think too, something that this commission is particularly keyed into is really not just the service themselves, but how should it be delivered? What does the law say we have to do to deliver it? And what level does the commission want to set if the law is absent? Or do we want to exceed the law? And so, being a municipality, we do have some options as to what we can bring on and what we can allow to revert to the county, or what we can take on from the county and not allow to revert. And so, placing those funding dollars as residential tax dollars into those services where they're valued by residents, taxpayers, stakeholders, and letting those go that we can't meet the minimum service threshold for, we can't meet the statutory minimums for, and we don't have support in, probably makes a lot of sense for us given our size and our resource constraints.
Vice Mayor, you.
Thank you. David, can you go back to the City of Rockville's survey? Because I think it speaks to Commissioner Harcourt's point. And looking at number 5, because this is exactly the question that they're asking.
You said question 5?
Yes, that
Yes.
one.
Yes.
So, they're asking, which options would you like to see implemented to accommodate new priorities? Eliminating programs, increasing the city debt to support capital projects, increasing recreation and membership fees, increasing the real property tax rate, which they're proposing a 1 cent per $100 of assessed value increase, and we did a half penny last year, and then anything else. So I think this sort of speaks exactly to something that we would want to have in our
Exactly.
Survey.
That question,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes.
Because these are, we have, people don't understand why our community is so special is our programming is not like a lot of these other municipalities. That's exactly why people leave their municipalities to come here, to enjoy our programming and what makes our community so special. And why a lot of residents don't go to other communities because they don't offer this level of service. And why we revere our staff the way we do. They are amazing. We've been to other communities and their staff, they pale in comparison. And I acknowledge this all the time. We go to these other municipalities, they have good staff, but they're not like district-type staff. And they don't put on functions like we put on functions. And so this is something we see all the time. And you don't want to minimize this level of service. If anything, we want to not only maintain it, we want to give something better. We want to give a better experience. But there are costs associated with that. And every day, the prices and all of these things are going up. And we won't be able to do this. Residents, they've come to expect a certain caliber of service, and these costs go up. And so we won't be able to do this. And so we are in a situation where, what do? We are in a really weird situation with a county who is perceived as anti-business. They don't want to help us develop and bring in development because they have this anti-development and poverty mentality. We're telling them we need development to take the pressure off our residents and taxpayer, right? We can only do so much. We have no control over our zoning. We can't bring in the businesses that we know we need to make our community walkable and safer and all bring in the businesses that we need to bring in. We can't do it with them. They won't cooperate with us. So what do we do? And so when we ask our residents, in order to maintain this level of service, it comes with a cost. And so, what do we do? And so if we can let these services go. We have a senior center. We did not foresee, I don't know, I talked to the mayor about this. We didn't foresee the budget for this. And so now we have that. Do we let it just close down? So these are hard questions that we have to, these are things that we have to do. We have to pay for that.
And with all of your lines of service, particularly those that are discretionary, right? The commission should lend a critical eye to usage data, census, and funding sources.
Right.
Right? So there are core services that are always gonna have some amount of dedicated funding, the things we're statutorily required to do.
Right.
And that, for better or worse, does get contrasted with the nice-to-haves. And so asking that type of priority question is important in the type of survey and can very well inform the types of priority decisions the commission makes during its budget deliberations.
And really quick, and fortunately
Sure,
for.
Commissioner.
Okay. Okay.
Go ahead.
Sure. But fortunately for us, we have a county council person who actually, is in anti-District Heights and have given us, support and of course a project charge, to help us, improve our services. So, I like to say thank you to Crystal Oriata for just, supporting the city, and helping us with, improving it and helping us to improve our services this year. So, I think that's kind of the type of partnerships that we need to have is, our county council members helping us, improve the city through our services and recreation. And additionally, on a marketing standpoint, I think that, we need to really make sure that this survey goes out to everybody at events, with the QR code, because we need to meet people where they are. A lot of people come to the city regardless if they're not a resident or not. They come to all these events, they come to the senior building, so we should be making sure that from a marketing standpoint, everybody has access to the same information.
With the branding.
I'm sorry, how in particular did she help us?
Well, project charge,
Projects are,
project charge.
what is that?
So there was a funding allocation made to the Prince George's County municipalities within a specific district. The project funding priority, so we got notified of this later in December. The project funding priorities are being brought to the liaisons this month, and then will make their way to the full commission for appropriation in February,
And when did that go through?
December. Well, we don't have any money at the moment.
Right.
We're in the planning phase now. And so we are working through priorities for what we would turn in to get either reimbursement or funding for the remainder of the fiscal year.
And this won't be,
So again, this is through recreation, right?
It's
No,
for,
it's not.
for youth and youth developmental services.
Youth
Yes,
and youth.
well,
So it would-
SB and recreation.
So it would
yes.
apply to probably youth and family services, recreation, and maybe some other odds and ends around the government.
Okay.
and there's no, this is no strings and all of that?
We have to turn in the initial programmatic proposals first. It's the programmatic proposals that are working their way through the liaisons. And so it's administered through Maryland Parks and Planning. And so we would still be subject to whatever requirements they impose on us. And we'll communicate those when we come up with the funding plan.
Oh, but it's not through her.
I think
It's
that it
through
was,
Maryland
it was
Parks and
included
Planning.
in the county budget during the county's budgeting process. And I believe of the municipalities within the District 7, each were allocated an amount in the county budgeting process for a project charge. That was then forwarded to
That
Park
was
and
so
Planning
awesome.
to implement.
Yes.
Okay.
That was the Angela also.
No, it wasn't. It was to the county council, and they, select which municipalities in their district they want to support, and you have to do a scope,
Correct.
and then you submit the scope, and they give you a reimbursement of whatever you want to provide to the scope of the contract and really support. But it's paid through Park and Planning, because they administer the
No,
project.
that's not through her, but thank you.
So,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you for that
But that's
explanation.
the type of partnerships that we have with the county council where they want to support. So, I think, we need to make sure we,
But it's not like the one that we had to send back to her because of all the strings and attachments
No.
that.
No, it's.
Different program.
It's a
Different
different
program.
program.
That's
It's a
that's
different
good, because the
program.
other one was unethical.
And so we're
Yeah.
running this
Okay.
one through like I said, we're running it through the liaison roundtable process. And so my hope is that the two liaisons that support that area will develop
One that won't.
funding recommendations for the commission to consider.
But
So-
and hopefully it won't be unethical like the one that we had to send back before.
We're running an ethical
Great,
process.
that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Tillman.
And with respect to the survey component, we did have good success with the branding survey. We did that multi-platform, and so we had a strong digital push, but we also, if somebody wanted to fill it out here, we helped facilitate that and helped them turn it in and counted that toward it. So because that outreach process was successful, I would try to mirror it with this to get the same type of variety and engagement for the commission to consider.
Thank you.
that's good.
So as we go through this process, so we have to spend monies up front and then get reimbursed. Is that what that is?
My understanding is that it's both. And so
Okay.
I think we can, so it's a current fiscal year allocation. So we can go back to July 1 Or we can go forward to July 30, or June 30, excuse me.
Yeah.
But there are certain submission requirements that we have to meet either way. So we can go back for stuff and ask for reimbursement, and we can say, we want to do this in the future. I would have to check with Park and Planning as to whether we need to do the original outlay and then ask for reimbursement later, or whether they allocate the funding ahead of the programming if it hasn't occurred yet.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, thanks. Any other questions regarding?
There is one
The
additional
survey.
informational update for the commission. So we did receive, since the last update to the commission, highway user revenue estimates for the 2 fiscal years.
Right.
And so just for reference, I've included what was adopted in FY '25. We're up a little bit, about $4,000, $3,000, on the new 2025 estimate, and up pretty significantly in the FY '26 estimate. So we're looking at adjustments to the current year budget, as well as a $40,000, $44,000 jump in highway user revenues for the upcoming '26 budget. That's significant because last fiscal year, the commission established a split for highway user revenues, where about 20% was allocated to DPW operating costs to defray the cost of general maintenance to the city streets, and 80% is allocated to your new capital asset preservation project, which is multi-year street, sidewalk, paving, striping, and safety program. And so I'm happy to provide these estimates because it looks like we're gonna be primed for about a $70,000 offset in DPW's operating budget. $75,000 offset in DPW's operating budget, and a $303,000 allocation in the capital budget. And so when we adopted the capital budget last year, we estimated about $250 as a part of the capital split. And so we're gonna have about $53,000 more dollars in FY '26 for the street paving plan than we anticipated last year. And so this is a good forecast for us, particularly as we go into the contract and bid development process for our multi-year paving program, which is supported by the capital asset preservation program. So that's the only informational update I have right now. I'm still expecting final real property tax revenue numbers in February. And, you know, as we did last year, we'll just continuously update this item with the commission in work session as final figures come through. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So, any other questions? And I think with the feedback, we will be asking staff to come forward with a draft survey, or,
We can bring, whatever the commission's pleasure, we can prepare a draft and share it at the next work session. Thinking about the calendar, I would just want to make sure that we're getting feedback from the survey by mid to late February,
I think we should get it out.
so that it can inform to the greatest extent possible the budget, or any budget guidance that you want to give to me and the treasurer before we actually prepare the proposed budget.
what's the pleasure of the commission?
I would like to maybe direct staff to just finalize a budget for us to agree on at the next work session, and between now and then, we can offline, right? We can all review the draft survey, and we can talk to David if we'd like any other things to be incorporated. How does that sound?
Sounds
that
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we got some great models.
Yeah, this is not a wheel that we need to reinvent.
Yeah.
It's a wheel that we just need to make sure fits our model car.
if
Right.
that makes sense. And so we
Yeah.
need to ask District Heights specific question. That's where
Right.
the commissioner's feedback is gonna be invaluable.
Yeah, I'd rather get the survey out sooner than later. So we do have some great models. I'm all for, what is it, what's that, the perfect as opposed to the.
Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Oh,
Right,
yeah.
so, yeah, that.
Yeah.
So I'd rather we have the survey out as soon as possible. If we see something, maybe some questions that we should, hey, maybe we should ask this, we can add to that. That'd
Yes,
probably be
and so-
easy to add.
If you launch it sooner rather than later, the schedule would allow for a second take somewhere in mid-March to mid-April
That's right.
during the tops of your budget work session.
We can get another.
So
bite
you
at
could
the
either
apple.
amend it or do another round of questions, or
Right.
however you want to garner feedback.
So I think if you could get with the department heads,
Mhm.
just get a great, you can do a good draft
Yep,
survey together, run it by the department head so they can tweak it.
Yep.
Run that past us.
Yep.
Give us a tight timeline to return our approval.
Yes.
Roll that out to Kelly.
Of course.
So she can advertise it and get it up.
okay, we'll get that running.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any way we can
Any
get
other,
it into the Herald?
excuse me, any other comments?
Yeah, is there any way we can get it into the Herald at the next issue?
It should be, but I'll confirm that when I share the questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Over here.
Thank you, Chief.
Oh, you have? Oh.
The day for a turtleneck.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Well, this was good. A lot to think about when it comes to our budget and to have these samples.
There are a lot of tools that are available.
Well, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, right?
Yeah, and
Yes.
where, after your investments over the last 2 years, we have the capability to pull a good amount of this off. So we have a financial system that can accommodate it. We have survey tools and expert staff who can push it out and analyze the data and turn it around for you quickly.
Okay. Well, thank you. So at this time, since I see Chief Tarpley in the back, I want him to come back and, I want him to come and summarize this ordinance. So for folks who missed the first introduction of it, can you just give us a recap? We already did the motions, but
That's right,
you could
yes.
just do a recap on it.
So what we have here is our stop sign ordinance. As you recall, we did a study a few months ago, almost about 2 months ago now, and seeing the numbers that we had, ranging anywhere from 300, on average 350 out of 400, all the way up to about 800 some violators in a day. We all know it's a big issue here, stop signs here. So what this hopes to do is we have selected approximately 8 locations throughout the city that we're going to get these. We have presented, waiting for the county council to vote on to approve our stop sign here. Part of this is our public hearing and our second presentation of this ordinance to go in effect here in the city of District Heights.
So have you gotten any updates from the county council on when they're going to
Yep.
approve?
Yes, ma'am. So the next meeting, I think it was next week. I was just talking to the clerk. Me and Kenny are dealing with the county clerk now to make sure we have all our ducks in order. And this is actually one of them here, a public hearing for public feedback. So we are actually on schedule as long as things go well.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Chief?
I do, it's not about the red lights.
Okay.
About the stop signs. Have we heard anything from Pepco about our speed camera? Our stop sign?
Red- Right, stoplight cameras.
Stoplight cameras, yeah.
It's very interesting you say that. Yes. So the last, I think I was at a MML session, and I met the new municipal liaison, and we actually had a interesting conversation. I kind of laid into them about their process in delaying us on different things, and our stoplight, our streetlights too. But they believe they have a way to speed up the process, and actually they were talking about our issues in particular, because our infrastructure on the Pike is a little bit older.
Yes.
So a number of different ways how we have to handle that. So we are working with that to get that speed up. So we're getting closer with our red light cameras than we were before. So we now have movement. They identified what was taking so long, going through different chains of commands, and they now identified a way to hopefully speed up this process of getting our permits pushed through.
Okay. And another question, I know there was a question about us possibly installing another camera on the opposite end on District Heights Parkway by the school. Is that still an option?
On the, were there existing cameras out you're talking about? It's funny, so I just was driving by looking at the other way, because if you notice, we have a new speed camera on, I think it's 2200 block of Mulberry Drive, and that one is a two-way camera. So I was gonna look at and see if I've looked at the numbers again, see what the numbers were for violators going that way. If that's possible, it's not just add another camera to that pole, so I'll have them do another speed study to see if that's an effective way.
Okay.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just noticed some speeding when I'm leaving out to go to work, to the office. Sometimes it's pretty bad going the
Okay.
opposite way as well.
I'll
Okay.
contact them tomorrow.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the commission?
Yes, one other
Okay. Sure, Vice
comment, totally unrelated to this, but safety, traffic related. I noticed that on District Heights Parkway, the part of the street that's a one-way, a lot of cars go down that one-way street. And I'm wondering if we can work with DPW to get some increased signage up there. And I think we almost would need it like on Mason and the other cross street on that street, and then around the clock tower as well, because I've just noticed like even like a UPS will go down the opposite route. And I know when people are doing that, they're not making a mistake. I think they're kind of doing it
purpose.
purposefully. Yeah. So just
Okay.
a note that if we can just get some increased signage in that entire area to state that that is a one-way street.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, yes, ma'am. We can look at that.
Ma'am, I have a
Sure,
comment.
Commissioner Jane.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, for mentioning vehicles going down the wrong way. I also noticed that at Felt and Lansdale, that corner, that folks are going down there the wrong way, and I know they see the signage. And so folks have to really be careful when they're coming up the hill of Edfeld.
Right, yeah, yeah. We'll take a look at that too. I've actually noticed that myself too, yes.
I can't wait for the stop sign cameras. Because right here at
And-
our intersection,
and that's it,
it's
it's-
crazy.
As you know, they do so much more. They also can detect distracting driving from cell phones. They're able to detect, if a vehicle's almost hitting pedestrians. So we'll be able to see a number of different violations on top of the actual stop sign violation. We'll be see what else there is an issue that we're not aware of as well.
So I wish it was a way where we could teach drivers that when you come to a stop sign to do a full stop. It's not. You get there and you rush through before the people who have been sitting there waiting their turn. It
So-
happens a lot.
That is actually also a thing that's offered too. When you pay your, we talked to the company that has this thing, when you pay your bill, you can get a couple of dollars off if you were to watch this video about safe driving and proper stopping.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's also, the company's all about training drivers for driver safety. They're really big in driver safety.
Well, that would be great. But even, you can go beyond that on the highway, right?
Right. Yeah, it's a whole different on the video.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, any other questions from the commission? Did you want to announce something,
I
Chief?
did. I do have an update. Last time we talked, there was
Okay.
a question about the illegal dumping. So then I couldn't say too much because it was a part of an ongoing investigation. Since then, we've actually closed that investigation within our criminal charges to be filed.
Oh,
And we have a full confession too on that. So we're able to identify, the illegal dumping on Mulberry in the creek.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was quite a bit amount of trash that was being dumped in there. But we did identify the individuals who were doing it, got them to admit to it, and we'll be issuing criminal citations on that.
Okay, great,
Great work,
great.
Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, because we're not a dumping site.
That's,
Yeah.
Mayor?
Oh,
I do
sure.
have one
Commissioner
additional
Jennifer, sure,
question
go
for the
right
chief.
ahead.
I was looking at the website the other day, and I noticed, I think at one of the last meetings, you did the presentation that we're up and running in terms of the,
Smart Go.
yes. Will, at some point soon, something be on our website where residents can go in and be able to, file their, request or
Permits.
application for permits and things of that nature?
I believe the link is, they're working on the link as we speak to
Okay.
get that uploaded onto the main website. So you just click it, it'll take you straight to the site to fill everything out.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
So when we do get SmartGov up, will there be any like FAQs or how-to
Yeah.
that will be?
There's a couple of kind of digital government go-lives that we have running simultaneously that are going to pretty drastically change how residents can interact with us and how convenient it is for them to interact with us. And so you will see a lot of sort of direct contacts to residents, not just through Constant Contact and others, but we're going to be heavily informing residents of their new options, probably for the better part of the next month, month and a half, until it becomes second nature, because the city has done business for the same way for such a long time,
Right.
that there's a lot of institutional inertia and experience out there that's really going to encourage folks to try and conduct business one way when they have more flexible and better options available to them now. And so you can expect to see things, future issues of the Herald, direct mail, et cetera.
So I just had a question with the link to pay for your permits or other items through this link. What about Rec Desk? Is that another payment? So we're gonna have two dual payment processes?
There will be two distinct portals, but because they're all, as Chief alluded to, redirects from our website, the user experience should be fairly seamless. On the back end, it's still getting accounted the same way, but where SmartGov might use one payment portal, RecDesk will use another.
Okay,
And that's
okay.
just a quirk of the software system.
Yeah, I just wanted to know.
But from a user experience, you're coming to our website, clicking apply for a permit, or reserve a room, or sign up for a gym
Membership.
class, and then you're taken from our site to that platform.
Oh,
So the
okay.
rest of the transaction is conducted in the platform.
Okay.
That was definitely a concern of everyone who was involved in that payment process, and make sure ours and theirs wasn't too far off, and how they communicate with each other. So that was actually, I think, a few discussions that we held with Deputy Chief and City Manager and Jeff and about that payment platform, making sure that was, they interchange and can communicate with each other.
And so we're getting as close as we can within the restrictions of the platforms to use the same backend. So we're using authorized.net. So the backend is mostly going to be the same.
Oh,
It's just
okay.
what sits on top of that is going to look a little bit different because it's SmartGov or it's RecDesk.
Oh, okay,
Exactly, yep.
okay.
And they're both smartphone,
Yes.
Okay, good.
I know SmartGov is, RecDesk I think is also.
Okay, good, okay.
Okay.
And also, we have the option, if we have a senior who doesn't have a smartphone or a computer, they can also just call in, and we will assist them at the front desk.
That's good,
Oh,
okay.
okay,
Oh,
good.
okay. Okay, good. All right, any other questions? Okay, thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Good evening.
So do we have any announcements
Yeah.
from the commission? Sure, Commissioner Tillman.
I just wanted to publicly thank our Public Works Department on this past, snow week. They did an amazing job cleaning the streets. A lot of municipalities, a lot of county roads was people were snowed in and not District Heights. They really stepped it up, and we owe them a debt of gratitude for just like our residents called. No complaints, I haven't received no complaints from any residents. They always praising them. And, I think they deserve a kudos for an amazing job, and of course, the whole city for planning it, the execution, and everything that happened. So, thank you to them, to our amazing staff for just handling that well.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Tillman. Commissioner Danforth, do you have anything to say?
No, I just agree with, in terms of the public works and the snow removal. I think they did a tremendous job, and like Commissioner Tillman, I did not receive a single complaint about the whole process and the planning and the execution of that all.
Great.
Oh, I do have one other thing. I think that the numbers are closing in terms of, there's a trip that's scheduled for this Friday to go to, bus trip to Annapolis Mall. So please reach out to the senior center to get that, let them know, register that you're going to be going to that event.
Space
It's
is
an
limited.
event at the mall.
Well, it's a bus trip to Annapolis Mall.
Oh,
So,
okay, all right.
Space is limited. Please
Yes.
sign up in advance.
Yes.
Oh,
Thank you.
Okay,
I want to ride.
you spending money.
bus trip.
Okay, Vice Mayor, did you have a comment?
Yes, I
Or-
just wanted to echo Commissioner Tillman's praise of Public Works. We had an all-staff earlier, and they just got a lot of praise. I mean, I hope they're just on cloud nine with the amount of
I hope so.
praise that we've been giving them, but they just did a phenomenal job. David, thank you so much for also coordinating with DPW. Chief Tarpley, thank you so much for coordinating with DPW. We've had our conversations about it as well, but it was a very seamless process. It was handled, and it only with some slight touch points as needed, because it takes a team. We all have to have eyes out there.
Right.
Even with a salt truck down at one point, we were able to pull it off. We did so much better than the county. No shade to the county, but we did. We did so much better. And even Mayor and I were in Annapolis last week,
Oh,
and their
my
roads were
gosh.
horrible.
And the
Horrible.
streets.
Horrible. So, I mean, I'm
Yes.
sorry for them, but I was very happy for us to say that we just had an amazing response. And I'm so pleased that the residents were pleased with the services that they got, because that's how we do, that is what we're talking about when we're talking about delivering on excellence. So, thank you again to DPW.
And why annexation is so important. Because that's one point of Public Works taking care of the residents and making sure
Exactly.
everybody's safe.
Yes.
So, we have that over the county, so.
1-0. Yeah, and I'd like to also
Sure.
chime in and say that as well. It is so important when you treat your staff well. And one thing that we really do is we work very hard to level up and treat our staff well with respect and the dignity that they deserve. And they do deserve it. And they take care of us. And we have staff that live here in this community, and that matters. And when we do come to the community and say this is why it's so important that we invest back into our community so that we can take care of our community the way that you deserve as a community. We deserve nice things, and this matters. We're not just here taking this money and it goes into a black hole. And one thing that, and I'll never forget this, Vice Mayor said, is we are trying to do the basic things right before we start doing the crazy stuff that really, this big aspirational things. We want to do the basic things well. We want to keep the lights on. We want to keep the community safe. We want to keep the streets clear. These are the things that we should be doing well. so that our community can be proud to say that we are from District Heights, and we hope we're doing that. We hope we're making you proud to say District Heights is home, because I'm proud to tell people I'm from District Heights. Another thing that I like to say, I generally get up early Saturday morning, and I snatch these advertising signs down, so people, if you put them up, I'm just letting you know you're wasting your money and your time, because every Saturday, that's my little exercise before I go to the gym. But I'm also giving the residents, I'm giving you permission, if you see them, take 2 minutes and snatch them down. No one's gonna bother you. No one has eyeballs on you. It's an ordinance out, it's against the law. And so, take them up. They look trashy, they make our community look poverty-driven. These people do it under the cover of dark because they know it's illegal. They do it under the cover of dark. They don't put their business names on them. We don't want you calling these people. They're usually scams. They're not legal, they're not registered. You don't want these people coming to your homes doing business, because they'll probably run off in the middle of the night with your money. So you don't want to do business with people that do things like that anyway. So if you see them, take the signs down and throw them away, because usually in the morning, the city see me, I usually put stacks of them outside the door up here. But take them down. They can trash the county with those things, but they're not going to trash our homes here. So that's my soapbox for the day.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Harcourt. So I do have an announcement on our essay contest through the Maryland mayors. So here again, they're celebrating 25 years. If I were mayor, I would. And it is including the fourth graders. We did submit some submissions last year, but I want it to be an ongoing thing, because I think at some point I'll be standing up there with the students at the governor's house, because I get mad every time I see other municipalities. And so what I would like is for Kenneth to work with Tanisha on making sure that this gets submitted in the right way. Okay. Because I just think it's important to have our young folks thinking about, being in leadership and elected official. And I think this is a great program that the Maryland mayors do put on. So we're definitely going to participate this year, and thank you for that. And then on Friday, the Mayor's Alliance to End Childhood Hunger, their annual meeting is on Friday in DC, and I will be attending. It is important that we continue to have that conversation about childhood hunger, and collaborating together and making sure that we have the right resources that we can provide, not only in the city of District Heights, but in the state of Maryland. So I'm honored to participate in this, because I'm always happy to learn about how could we feed our children, and what are ways that we could do with the resources that we have, or being able to obtain more resources through the state of Maryland. So I will be reporting on that meeting at our next work session on the outcome of that. So on that note, I don't have any other announcements. So could I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Commissioner Tillman, motion to adjourn.
Could I get a second?
Vice Mayor Gomez seconds the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. This meeting has ended. Thank you.
Yes. 8:10.
Take care.